Welcome to Millennium Daytime Bulletin. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium News Channel 24. Today I'm bringing you the latest updates from around the world. Let's begin with today's top headlines. Trump expands exemption from Canada and Mexico tariffs. Syrian forces and Assad loyalists in deadly clashes in the Latakia province. Canadian protest imports of the United States toxic waste amid Trump tariff war. Strongly condemn UK Foreign Office on S. Jaishankar's security breach. Tahavur Rana 2611 Mumbai attack accused tries to stall his extradition from the United States. I'll be tortured, he said. United States suspend aid to South Africa after Trump order. Cyclone Alfred update. Storm may weaken as it makes landfall, but winds and torrential rain batter Australia's coast. Market tumbles, but oil holds steady, a roller coaster ride for investors. FIFA will consider expanding World Cup to 64 teams for 2030 tournament. Ben Stokes being considered as next England white ball captain, reports say. Now let's look at the details. US President Donald Trump has signed orders significantly expanding the goods exempted from his new tariffs on Canada and Mexico. It is the second time in 2 days that Trump has rolled back his taxes on import from America's two biggest trade partners. Measures that have raised uncertainty for businesses and worried financial markets. On Wednesday, he said he would temporarily spare car makers from about 25% import taxes just a day after they came into effect. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum thanked Trump for the move, while the Canada's finance minister said the country would in turn hold off on the threatened second round of retaliatory tariff on the United States products. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said on Thursday morning that he had a colorful conversation about tariffs in a phone call with Trump. The United States president used profane language more than once during Wednesday's heated exchange, according to the United States and Canadian media reports. It's so far so good for Mexico's Sheinbaum. Trudeau told reporters that a trade war between the two allies are likely for the foreseeable future despite some targeted relief. Our goal remains to get these tariffs, all tariffs removed, he said. A first round of Canadian retaliation targeting $30 billion of the United States good in already that is being effect in the United States. The trade war tensions have rattled markets and raised fear of economic turbulence. On Thursday afternoon, the leading United States stock indexes were all lower, with the S&P 500, which tracks 500 of the biggest American companies, ending down nearly 1.8%. In signing the order, Trump dismissed the suggestion that he was walking back the measure because of the concerns about the stock market. Nothing to do with the market, Trump said. I'm not even looking at the market because long term, the United States will be very strong with what's happening. The carve out from the duties applies to goods shipped under the North America's Free Trade Pact, the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, that is the USMCA, which Trump signed during his first term. Syrian forces loyal to the new government in Damascus have engaged in heavy fighting with the remnants of the ousted Assad regime in the coastal area in the country's northwest. At least 13 soldiers have been killed in the clashes in the Latakia province close to the Russia-controlled airbase, according to the state news agency TV. A curfew that had been announced until Friday morning. There are some of the most violent attacks on the forces linked to the Syria's Islamist group since the fall of the Bashar al-Assad in the December. Also, the clashes continue in the coastal areas that form the heartland of the Alawite community and a stronghold of the Assad family regime. Alawite activists said their community have been subjected to violence and attacks since the Assad regime fell, particularly in the rural homes and the Latakia region. State news agency Sana reported that huge military reinforcement were heading to the city of Jabal. Also late on Thursday, the Syrian-based Step news agency was reporting that the government-aligned forces had killed about 70 former regime fighters, while more than 25 others were captured in Jabal and surrounds. Also, the AFP news agency said 28 gunmen loyal to the Assad were killed, citing monitors, and added the government forces were using helicopters to attack the targets. A spokesperson for the Syria's defense ministry, Colonel Hassan Abdul Ghani, issued a warning to Assad loyalists via state media. Thousands have chosen to surrender their weapons and return to their families, while some insist on fleeing and dying in defense of murderers and criminals. The choice is clear: lay down your weapon or face your inevitable fate, he said. Also, the region has become a major security challenge for interim President Ahmed al-Shara. He is also facing resistance in the south, where there have been clashes while Druze forces in the recent days. Earlier this week, Syria's foreign minister told the global chemical weapon watchdog that the new government was committed to destroying any remnant stockpiles producing under Assad. Assad government denied even using chemical weapons during their 14-year civil war, but activists accused it of carrying out dozens of chemical attacks. We'll have to see how the story unfolds in the couple of more days and weeks to come. The proposed expansion of a cubic landfill that accepts hazardous waste from the United States has ignited a turf war between the Quebec provincial government and the local leaders who say they oppose putting the United States trash into a local peat bog. Local leaders are protesting against the move, saying the province is capitulating to a United States company in the midst of a tariff war between the Canada and the United States. For a year, the Montreal suburb of the Blainville has been refusing to sell a piece of the city-owned forest land to facilitate the expansion of the Stablex, a United States-owned company that treats and stores hazardous waste, including 33,000 tons exported from the United States in 2023. Tech billionaire Bill Gates is listed as a stockholder of the company, and also the last week when the Quebec Minister of the Natural Resources and the Forest introduced a bill to force the city to sell the land to allow the expansion to go forward, saying the waste site is about to run out of space and the government must act quickly to avoid a stoppage in the hazardous waste disposal. The company say it offers a safe way to dispose of toxic waste that could otherwise pollute the environment, but opposition leaders questioned whether Canada should be handling United States waste. We are not the trash can of the United States, Ruba Gazel, an opposition member of the Quebec's parliament, said at a press conference. She said it is unacceptable for Quebec's ruling Conservative Party to expropriate a city to give it to Trump's United States. The issue has gained attention following an investigation last month by The Guardian and Quinto Elemento Lab, a Mexican investigative unit, which showed the U.S. ships more than 1 million tons of hazardous waste to Canada and Mexico each year. Opposition to those waste exports is growing at a time when Canadians are actively registering their displeasure with the new administration of Donald Trump. Trump has imposed a 25% tariff on Canada goods and talked about taking over Canada as a 51st state. Canadians have variously reported by boycotting pizza ingredient from the United States and cancelling their travel plans to their southern neighbor. A coalition of environmental groups is calling for Canada to stop accepting U.S. hazardous waste altogether, saying the government government of Canada must take advantage of the current context of economic tensions with our southern neighbors to take a stronghold and put an end to the massive import of hazardous waste from the United States. Municipal officials say their immediate concern is protecting about 165 acres, that is 77 hectares of peat bog and forest land where the Starbucks is pushing to expand. They say the company can instead develop what they say is a less environmentally sensitive site nearby, which is owned by the Quebec government and had previously been designated for the expansion. Britain said the police acted swiftly after an incident of breach of security of the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar of India that happened in London and warned that any attempt to intimidate and threaten is unacceptable. A pro-Khalistani protester attempted to break barricades while others shouted anti-India slogans while Mr. Jaishankar came out of the Chatham House after an interactive session at the Institute, home of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, on Wednesday. The Metropolitan Police acted swiftly to address the situation, sources in the UK Foreign Office said, adding they strongly condemn the incident. India has said it expects the host government to fully live up to their diplomatic obligation in such cases and deplored the misuse of democratic freedoms by those elements, referring to the Khalistanis. We have seen the footage of the breach of the security during the visit of the External Affairs Minister to the United Kingdom, MEA spokesperson Randeep Jaiswal said, and also he said we condemn the provocative activities of this small group of separatists and extremists. We deplore the misuse of democratic freedoms by such elements. We expect the host government in such cases to fully live up to their diplomatic obligations, Mr. Jaiswal added. Videos on social media platforms showed a small group of Khalistani protesters holding yellow flags and shouting slogans against India and Mr. S. Jaishankar. The foreign minister was standing on the other side of the road as Mr. Jaishankar was about to leave. A tall man was seen attempting to break the police cordon and run towards Mr. Jaishankar's motorcade. The man stood in front of the motorcade and tried to block it. He was then swiftly taken away by the police officers. It was not the first incident of breach of security by Khalistani elements. In March 2023, Khalistani elements pulled down the national flag at the Indian High Commission in London, triggering strong reaction from Canada and India. Also from the incident, India summoned the senior most British diplomat in Delhi and demanded an explanation over complete absence of security at the mission. India has been asking the United Kingdom to take actions against Khalistani elements operating from British soil. Tahavur Rana, an accused in the 26/11 Mumbai attack, has appealed his extradition to India, citing health risk and torture in the country. Rana, Pakistani origin Canadian citizen, was convicted in the United States for supporting the band Lashkar-e-Taiba, that is LET, and is wanted in India for his alleged role in facilitating the Mumbai attacks that killed over 174 people. His extradition has been a long pending demand from the India country. Also, however, the US President Donald Trump confirmed Rana's extradition to India during a press conference with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the White House last month. Tahavur Rana will be going back to India where he will face justice, he said. Prime Minister Modi also expressed gratitude to Trump for taking the step. Also, however, the Rana has now moved to the United States Supreme Court in the last-ditch effort to stall his extradition, citing the risk of being tortured in India. He also cited his religion, Pakistani origin, and human rights reports to block his transfer. Rana said he was a walking time bomb with numerous problems, including a bulging artery, Parkinson's disease, and possible cancer. I will be tortured on the highest order since I am a Muslim of Pakistan origin, he said. Once brought to India, Rana is expected to be produced in a special National Investigation Agency, that is NIA court, after which the NIA will seek his custody for questioning. The extradition is being touted as a big success for Indian agency and the government. I am pleased to announce that my administration was and has been approved and the extradition of one of the plotters, Tahawur Rana, and one of the very evil people of the world having to do with the horrific 2008 Mumbai terrorist attack to face justice in India, Trump said during the press conference with Modi. Also, Trump said that he and Modi will fight the threat emanating from the radical Islamic groups, and we agree that the solid action must be taken to eliminate terrorism that originates on the other side of the border, Prime Minister Modi said, taking a jibe at Pakistan, which funds terrorist groups to create instability in India and adjoining countries without directly referring to it. Rana was inducted in October 2009. He was convicted for providing logistical support for a failed attack in Denmark but was acquitted of terrorism activities in India. The district court sentenced Rana to 14 years imprisonment. Terrorist David Headley also testified against Rana in court. The State Department has ordered an immediate pause on the most U.S. foreign assistance to the South Africa, according to the cable seen by The Guardian, officially implementing a contentious executive order by the Donald Trump. The directive issued on Thursday implements Executive Order 14204, targeting what the administration called the egregious action by the South Africa. It orders all State Department entities to immediately suspend aid disbursement with minimal exceptions. To effectively implement the Executive Order 14204, all bureaus, offices and missions shall pause all obligation and all dispersion of the aid or assistance to any South African. Also, they read the cable signed by the Secretary of the State, that is Marco Rubio. The cable follows the 7 February order amid a broader reassessment of United States foreign aid, which paused certain foreign assistance pending review. The order specifically cites unjust racial discrimination against white Afrikaners, descendants of Dutch colonizers who implemented the segregationist regime that denied basic rights to the black majority until 1994. The South African-born billionaire Elon Musk, a Trump super ally who heads the administration's government efficiency team and has condemned his homeland for openly racist policies, is widely seen as influencing the administration's stance towards a country where white South Africans, just 7% of the population, still disproportionately also control most wealth and land. According to the cable, Rubio has delegated authorities to Pete Morocco, a Trump loyalist who presided over the administration's evisceration of the foreign aid program, to the United States aid and the State Department to determine whether specific aid programs should continue. The guidance emphasized that there is a very high bar for such requests. Only PEPFAR, the United States Global HIV/AIDS program that provides life-saving treatment to millions of South Africans, will proceed without additional review, according to the cable. Also, all other assistance programs requested and that require special permission, even those that had received prior exceptions under the judiciary, foreign aid pauses. This is also the latest sign of escalating tensions between the two generally friendly nations, starting when the President Trump accused South Africa of using its new land law to discriminate against the white citizens. Claims the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa that rejected any misinformation. The bill in question conversely also permits the government acquisition of the private land without compensation in certain circumstances, though its supporters say that the seizures would be rare and subject to any judicial review. Forecasters say tropical cyclone Alfred's wayward behavior en route to the southeast Queensland's coast is creating considerable uncertainty in predicting where and when the system could make the landfall. Alfred performed another pirouette on the Thursday evening, looping around on its path and further delaying its progress towards the heavily populated southeast Queensland coast. The Bureau of Meteorology says the tropical cyclone is still expected to make landfall on Saturday morning somewhere between the Noosa and the Coolangatta. The most recent tracking map suggests it could cross the north of the Brisbane. Alfred's slow progress to the mainland could also prolong already severe conditions to the south of its projected path, particularly in parts of the Gold Coast and the northern New South Wales, already experiencing coastal erosion from the wild surf, intense rain and potential flooding. Evacuation orders have been issued as far south as the Nambucca, the more than 500 and 400 kilometers south of the Queensland New South Wales border, with river levels expected to rise on Friday morning. The NSW State Emergency Service says it has already responded to 3,495 incidents, including the flooding, rescuing and the processes that goes along with the tsunamis and earthquakes. Residents of Brisbane, the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast have been hunked down since Wednesday evening. Queensland energy provider Energex says there have been 28,000 homes without power due to the cyclone. Essential Energy said there were 35,000 homes and businesses without power in the northern NSW on Thursday night after the severe wind and energy and heavy rain covered the region. Also, Alfred in the forecast to remain a Category 2 tropical cyclone until it reaches Moreton Bay. If it comes through the bay, there is a chances that the system loses some intensity as it passes the Bay Island, potentially reaching the mainland as a Category 1 storm. It did pack a punch. Crisafulli said the system is continuing to move towards us. It is the Category 2 at this stage and increasingly will start feeling those wind speeds as well. The Bureau's tracking maps are the best estimate using information from the number of models that predict how the cyclone might behave. Forecasters were accurately able to provide communities with significant warning that Alfred would turn west on Tuesday and head towards the coast. But as if to underscore the difficulty of the giving precise information, Alfred is not taking a direct route back to Brisbane. Now bringing you latest updates on today's market trends. The stock market faced a broad-based sell-off today, with major US indices experiencing significant declines as investors reacted to economic data, corporate earnings and broader macroeconomic uncertainties. The Dow Jones Industrial Average tumbled 427.51 points, that is a 0.99% decrease, signaling weakness in the blue chip stocks. The S&P 500 also saw a sharply losing of the 104.1111 points, also that is the 0.15% of decline, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq suffered the biggest hit, dropping 484.48 points, that is minus 2.61%, reflecting increased pressure on the growth and technology stock. The sharp declines in the Nasdaq suggest investors are pulling back from the riskier asset amid concerns over the interest rate, inflation or potential economic slowdown. Adding to the uncertainty, the volatility index VIX, often referred to the fear gauge, surged by 13.41 points and indicating the heightened market anxiety. The small cap Russell 2000 index also struggled, shedding 34.19 points, that is minus 1.63%, reflecting weakness in domestic focused companies that are more sensitive to economic conditions. The downturn in the US equities may be linked to a mix of factors, including concern over the Federal Reserve policy, inflationary pressures and global geopolitical risk. Meanwhile, the Canadian markets also faced declines, with the S&P TSX Composite dropping to 86.78 points, that is minus 1.15%, and the S&P TSX 60 falling 15.89 points, that is minus 1.06%. This suggests that broader North American equities are facing similar downward pressures. possibly due to economic concerns or weaker commodity prices. However, Latin America market also painted a different picture, with Brazil's Bovespa rising 0.25%, Chile's S&P IPSA gaining 0.51%, and Mexico's S&P BMV IPC climbing 0.20%. This divergence indicates that investors in emerging markets that may be seeing relative resilience, possibly driven by local economic conditions, currency movements, or sector-specific trends. Overall, today's market performance highlights a risk-off sentiments among investors, with equities facing broad declines amid uncertainty over the macroeconomic conditions, while US and Canadian stocks suffered losses. Latin American markets showed pockets of strength, suggesting a complex global investment landscape. Investors will likely be watching upcoming economic reports, central bank decisions, and geopolitical development to gauge the directions of the markets in the coming days. Commodities saw mixed trading today, with energy prices slightly up while the metal experienced decline. WTI crude oil inched up to 0.08% to reach $66.41 per barrel, and Brent crude oil followed with a 0.20% gain to reach $69.12, indicating slight optimism in the oil markets despite broader economic uncertainty. However, the natural gas dipped 1.02% to reach $4.26, reflecting potential concerns over demand or storage levels. Precious metals struggled as gold dropped 0.38% to reach $2,915.40, and silver declined 0.64% to reach $33.13, likely influenced by the market correction or investor sentiment shifting towards other assets. Meanwhile, agricultural commodities remain stable, with soya beans ticking up 0.05% to reach $10.28. The overall commodity market performance suggests cautious investor sentiment, with energy prices holding steady but metal facing profit-taking amid economic concerns. Trader will be closely watching inflation data, Federal Reserve policies, and geopolitical developments to gauge future price movements. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm Shweta Samar from New Delhi, and you're watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin.
Hello viewers, you are watching Millennium News 24. America and global villages seen America independence built by immigrants, manufacturers, roads, highways, educations, healthcare, IT, scientists, space, business development to all thousands of multimedia and all major social media platforms and news network in America. Millennium News 24, one of truthfully news networks in America and global news organizations. Please watch, follow and subscribe. We are in iOS and Android devices, Roku, Amazon, Apple devices, all smart TV, globally Horizon satellite, social media Millennium News 24, Millennium TV 24. Website www.millenniumnews24.com and www.millenniumtv24.com. Thank you.
Welcome back after the break. I'm Shweta Samar from New Delhi, and you're watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin. Now let's look at some sports highlights. FIFA is to consider a proposal to expand the 2030 Men's World Cup final to 64 teams, an adjustment that would mean more than a quarter of its 211-member association that would take part. The idea was raised at a meeting of the FIFA Council on Wednesday as part of any other business. According to the reporting in the New York Times, the delegate was Ignacio Alonso, the president of the Uruguayan Football Association. Uruguay will be one of the 3 South American countries to host a centenary celebration match in the 2030 of the FIFA president Gianni Infantino also agreeing to explore the idea further. A FIFA spokesperson told it had a duty to consider all requests from the council members. A proposal to analyze a 64-team FIFA World Cup to celebrate the centenary of the FIFA World Cup in 2030 was spontaneously raised by a FIFA council member in the miscellaneous agenda item near the end of the FIFA council meeting held on 5 March 2025. The idea was acknowledged as FIFA has a duty to analyze any proposal from one of its council members. Infantino has expanded the influence of what was already the most coveted prize in sports since he was elected FIFA president in 2016. Also, a proposal to stage the World Cup every 2 years was abandoned, but next year's World Cup in Mexico, Canada and the United States will bring an increase from 32 countries to 48, with the number of matches rising from 64 to 104. Spain, Portugal and Morocco are to act as joint hosts in 2030, with centenary matches in Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay. Also, the addition of the 16 further teams would create substantial logistical challenges for the host, not the least duration of the tournament, which would probably run for at least 6 weeks. Question over the carbon footprint of such an event would grow larger. The politics of an expanded World Cup reveal that the differing priorities of the competing nations and confederation is very crucial. We'll see how the events unfold in a couple of more days and weeks. England's white ball cricket is at crossroad following Josh Butler's resignation as captain after a dismal Champions Trophy campaign. With managing director Rob Key determined to find the best person to take over, discussions have sparked over whether Test captain Ben Stokes could also assume leadership in the ODIs. Stokes, who have played his last 50 overs match in England's disappointing 2023 World Cup defence, remains an option. Key acknowledged Stokes' exceptional leadership quality, saying, "Ben Stokes is one of the best captains I've ever seen, so I'd be stupid not to look at him." However, he also admitted that the need to consider the impact of such a dual role is also very crucial. England is also open to the idea of separate ODI and T20 captains, as Key believes that the format now requires a different approach. Several names have emerged in the discussion, including the Phil Salt, Liam Livingstone and Harry Brook. Key emphasized that the decisions won't be rushed. "We are looking for the best person, someone who can take this forward." England's Champion Trophy exit in the group stage also highlighted deep-rooted issues. Losing to Australia, Afghanistan and South Africa exposed flaws in the team balance, with England opting for a pace-heavy attack in the subcontinental conditions. The struggle were evident in the lead-up to the Champions Trophy, with England suffering heavy defeats in the India across both T20 and ODI series. Report emerged that only Joe Root practiced in the net during the ODI series, a claim dismissed by the Key. Also, that story wasn't true, he clarified. "I say the team in Pakistan and they practiced hard. It wasn't lack of preparation that caused poor performances." That's all for now. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for more updates. Log in to stay updated with the latest news on our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at Millennium News 24. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel Millennium News 24. You can watch us on Android and iOS devices, as well as on Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV and all smart TV platforms. Enjoy entertainment and latest news with us. Download the Millennium TV app, Millennium TV USA for Android and Millennium News on Google. Thank you for being part of Millennium News Channel 24.